Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Mageau, and I am happy to be here with NAMI and Evergreen Health for the Evergreen Forum tonight. We're going to be talking about healthy relationships. And here is a bit about me. I am a mental health counselor, domestic violence and intimate partner survivor, and an author. So after I went through my experience, I went to counseling. I went to support groups and I saw an individual counselor. And it had such a profound effect on my healing that it inspired me to become a counselor myself. So now I am. And then I wrote a memoir about my experience, which is called Warning Signs, that teaches people the warning signs of domestic violence. As a counselor, I see clients ages 12 through adult, primarily for relationship issues, academic and career exploration, anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Those are just the main topics. So as we get going, let's do a word cloud. So I'm going to put it in the chat here, and the word cloud is for what comes to mind when you think of a healthy relationship. So give me 2 seconds to get the link in here. We're in the meeting. Okay. So go ahead and put your response in so we can see what people say and just get an idea of where we all are. I have one response. Are people seeing it? Oh, it's yes, it's in a word cloud, but we can do it through the chat too. That's fine too. Respect, trusting, good communication. Great. What else? Okay, those are good to start. Humor, boundaries, good laughs, good listening, great cooperation, consent. Those are all really important. Space and togetherness. Oh, that's nice. Trust. Great. So it sounds like we have a pretty good foundation of what's healthy. And then let's do another word cloud, or just put it in the chat. Oh, and on healthy relationship, we also have freedom and comfort to be oneself. So then now, what words come to mind when you think of domestic violence or intimate partner violence? And just to clarify the difference, because not everybody knows, domestic violence is kind of the larger, more umbrella term for different kinds of violence that occurs within families or partner relationships. And intimate partner violence is specifically the violence that occurs between two or more people in a relationship. So if there's like children around that they're not part of the intimate partnership, but they're there to witness or experience it, then it would be domestic violence for them. And then for the people in the relationship, it would be called intimate partner violence. So control, verbal abuse, fear, walking on eggs. Belittling, stress. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Feeling unsafe, gaslighting, anger, control, lack of worthiness. Yeah, all good, and all anger, rage, pain, all really showing all the different types of experiences that can happen, different types of abuse, worry, stress. Okay. Um, so I'm going to show you all two different wheels that are pretty commonly taught with domestic violence and healthy relationships education. Um, so we'll start with the equality wheel, and then we'll go to the power and control wheel. And so the equality wheel is going to show all the different relationship qualities that tell us that there's an equal balance of power. So I'm going to go through them starting clockwise from where like number one would be. And as I'm doing this, feel free to put any thoughts or questions in the chat, and I'll try and answer them as we go, or at the end, just depending on the complexity of the question. So the first one I'll go over is non-threatening behavior, which is talking and acting so that both feel safe and comfortable, expressing our feelings and doing things, practicing consent in sexual relationships, and consent in general. Next, we have respect, listening to each other non-judgmentally, being emotionally affirming and understanding, valuing each other's opinions. And then we have trust and support, supporting each other's goals in life, respecting each other's right to their own feelings, friends, activities, and opinions. Then we have honesty and accountability, accepting responsibility for self and actions, acknowledging past use of violence, admitting being wrong, communicating openly and truthfully. And then under responsible parenting, we have sharing parental responsibility, being positive, nonviolent role models for children and fur children or other pets, I think are included as well. And then shared responsibility in the household, mutually, or just in the partnership, mutually agreeing on a fair distribution of work, making family decisions together. Economic partnership, making money decisions together or respecting that the money is separate, and or making sure both partners benefit from financial arrangements. And then the last one is negotiation and fairness, and seeking mutually satisfying resolutions to conflict, accepting change, and being willing to compromise. Any thoughts or feelings come up that anybody wants to share, either in the chat or aloud? Does it bring up any feelings? Does it make people feel like their relationship is good, or maybe they're questioning some things? Of course, I'm sure you probably wouldn't want to share that if that's what it is, but hopefully the wheels are turning in your head. So we'll go on to power and control. So this is a mirror of the other model, but it's showing all the different forms of an imbalance of power and control, where one person has more power and control over the other person. And they're basically different forms of abuse. So I'll go through them. From the number one spot on the clockwise wheel, we have using intimidation, making you afraid by using looks, gestures, actions, smashing things, abusing pets, displaying weapons, using looks, actions, gestures to reinforce control, standing in front of the door or exit. Number two would be using emotional abuse, putting you down, making you feel bad about yourself, calling you names, playing mind games, making you feel guilty, humiliating you, questioning your identity, reinforcing internalized phobias and isms. The number three spot, we have using isolation, controlling what you do, who you see or talk to, limiting your outside activities, making you account for your whereabouts, saying no one will believe you, not letting you go anywhere alone, or sometimes even like making phone calls or texting or limiting social media. The next section is denying, minimizing, and blaming, making light of abuse, saying it didn't happen or it wasn't as bad as it was, shifting responsibility, saying it's your fault, you deserved it, accusing you of mutual abuse, saying it's just fighting, not abuse, accusing you and making them abuse you. And I want to comment on where it's talking about accusing you of mutual abuse, because that does happen quite frequently. And then the person being abused can be confused if that's really what's occurring. And so to help clarify that, you can look at if you have a mutual feeling of control and equality in the relationship, and really where that balance shifts. And that can help kind of give you some clues to what might be occurring. And we will talk a little bit about codependency in a couple of slides. So next we have using children, making you feel guilty about the children, using children to relay messages, threatening to take the children, telling you that you have no parental rights, threatening to tell your ex or the authorities to take your children, using privilege, treating you like a servant and making all the big decisions, being the one to define the roles or duties in the relationship, using privilege or ability to discredit you, cut off access to resources or the system, use the system against you, knowing what's best for you. And then using economic abuse, preventing you from getting or keeping a job, making you ask for money, interfering with work or education, taking your credit cards without permission, not working and requiring you to provide support, keeping your name off joint assets. And what's not included in these last three that kind of can end up in along any of those categories would also be using privilege or control with immigration status, STI status, sexuality identity, gender identity. That would also all be included. And then the last one we have here is using coercion and threats, making and or carrying out threats to do something to harm you, threatening to leave or commit suicide, driving recklessly to frighten you, threatening others who are important to you, and stalking. And I see a comment in here. Accused of mutual abuse because I spat on him once to get him away from advancing on me. Yeah, and so you're defending yourself. And abusers will try and make it seem that they're not abusing. So yes, I'm sorry that happened too. Any other thoughts or questions around these? Either wheel or any of it? All right, we are ahead of my schedule, so if there are questions at the end, there'll be plenty of time for it. So this is just kind of an infographic I made to just show the difference. So in a healthy relationship, the power and control is equal and respected between partners. And in an unhealthy relationship, one person has control over another person. So I have these scales here, so you can see if the scales to give a visual of being equal or unequal. Okay, I put a lot of information on this slide. Maybe I could have put it in more than one slide. But I wanted to show the differences between healthy bonding, which is either side, and trauma bonding and codependency, which is in the middle. So in trauma bonding or codependency, people's lives are intertwined. There's feelings that they cannot live without the person, lots of highs and lows, extreme feelings of love and hate. A focus is on their priorities, not your own. You let their bad behavior slide. And that's not to say that that's separate than forgiveness, right? Like forgiveness is helpful in any healthy relationship, but it's a matter of if it continues to happen. And also if you're trying to communicate about it and they're not participating in healthy communication, or they're saying they'll change, but they never do. So that's more what that bad behavior sliding is about. And as you hope they will change, and then everything will be great. And you feel like they're the only person who will love you. And so in trauma bonding and codependency, when people are in a relationship with an imbalance of power and control, the they can become bonded by this trauma of this reoccurring violence, emotional, physical, sexual, otherwise. And so they can feel that they are codependent on one another. Someone says here, codependency can also be trying to read the room for you and your kids, so you can influence your mood and your kids' moods, hoping not to trigger him. Yeah, that goes along the lines of like walking on eggshells and trying to placate. So especially when there's already been an incident of violence or abuse, and then there's normally afterward a making up period, and then a honeymoon period, and then there's the tension building period where you're not sure if it's going to happen again, and so you try and placate them and try and meet all of their needs in order to prevent further violence. And it's really quite difficult to prevent violence once we've seen that pattern in a person. Yeah, it's a great aspect to include here. So on healthy bonding, it would be okay living apart. Like, of course, you want to be with a person, right? But if the relationship ended, you wouldn't feel like your life is over. The relationship feels even keeled. It doesn't feel like lots of highs and lows. It feels like pretty steady. Communication fixes problems and makes things easier going forward. You know, you love yourself and others love you. Whereas with codependency and psychological abuse, people can be made to feel as though they can only be loved by that person. So in a healthy relationship, healthy bonding, you know that you love yourself and other people will love you too. And then you love each other for who you are now. So of course we all talk about changing and being our best selves, right? But we shouldn't be expecting somebody to change, or somebody shouldn't be expecting us to change. We should still love each other for right now in the moment. People live and lead their own lives. Arguments don't bring feelings of hate. If you're feeling scared of someone and there's an argument, then you could feel like you hate them. Whereas in a healthy relationship, if there is, sorry, in a healthy relationship, you can have an argument and not feel like you hate the person. You can just feel like I disagree with them and I'm maybe a little mad right now. And communication generally feels easy and productive. Any thoughts or comments on these slides? Anything that's coming up for anyone? Okay. Okay, so relationships can give us anxiety. So can lots of things in life. So what can we do about it? So one of the key things that can be really helpful in lessening anxiety and just in general is building resiliency in your life. So key aspects of resiliency include building and working on social relationships. So those can be your relationships at school, at work, with friends, with family members, building new friendships and continuing to develop existing friendships and relationships, and just knowing that you have support people that you can go to and count on to talk about things will help build resiliency and help you feel strong. Having a variety of hobbies for different life aspects that you can always kind of go to. So the idea is to make a variety of hobbies part of your regular schedule, so you can easily go to them when you need, and you can also build up resilience just by practicing some healthy hobbies. So in here, I have 4 categories. So I'll give some suggestions for each, and then maybe you all can put your suggestions in the chat or speak aloud, either way. So creative, so a creative hobby. I fidget with Fimo clay when I'm on Zoom calls. So I make little things out of clay. Right now it's just a piece of yellow clay, but so that's my creative hobby. Energetic. I love to go for long walks. Social. I love to go on art walks with my friends. So also walks, but also arts. And alone time, I really enjoy reading and doing crosswords. So, what are some hobbies that you all enjoy in the creative category?
Needle point.
A poem, yeah, absolutely. A poem's such a good way to like release emotions and just get words and feelings out on a page. Absolutely. Reading, writing, listening to music. Yep. Sewing, writing, painting. Arranging flowers. Nice. Painting portraits. Oh, that is difficult. I paint too, but landscapes are easier. Journaling. Oh, so good. So healthy to journal. Cooking. Yes. Reading. Great. Okay. What are some energetic hobbies that you all enjoy? Walking, exploring, hiking. Yes. The weather's starting to feel like spring lately. So more walking and exploring and hiking, swimming with the kids. So fun. Exercising. Any other energetic or forms of exercising? Okay, how about social? What are social hobbies that you all enjoy? Or these can be things you do or things that you like have been meaning to do also, or just have interested maybe. Support groups, bird watching, games, movies, texting. Call my dad. Yeah, calling family is so good. Volunteer work. Yeah, that is good for the soul for sure. Trivia. Yes. Yes. In my neighborhood of Seattle, there are so many different places that do trivia. And I just moved here a few months ago, well, to this particular neighborhood. I'm so excited to like try out all the different places with trivia. I'm not good at it, but I enjoy it. Any other social activities? Okay, and how about alone time for all those introverts, but also everybody, whether you qualify yourself as introvert or extrovert or ambivert, alone time is important for all of us. What do you all like to do for alone time? Reading, solitaire TV. Oh yeah, I've been really into solitaire lately too. Genealogy. Oh, that's interesting. Listening to music. Mhm. Okay, great. So yeah, if we can do these, I don't know, maybe some of them we can do daily, some of them we do weekly, some we do monthly. But the more regular we can make it as part of our schedule to do all these things, that's really just going to give us some well-balanced lives and joy, and that gives us strength and resiliency to go into the world, into the next day. So another cool thing for resiliency and helping with anxiety is mindfulness. So mindfulness is focusing on something that grounds us in the present. So there's lots of different ways you can do this, and it can be just like really just putting all your energy into one task, or really just focusing on one thing. So what we'll kind of do on our own here and together is just take a look around the room that you're in and just see what is the most calming thing that you can find. And once you have found what that item is, focus on it. Describe it in your mind. Think about how you would draw it. Notice its features and really study the item. Let's just do this together for 30 seconds or so. Okay. Would anyone like to share in the chat or verbally what they chose and how that experience felt? Just focusing on that item for a bit. Any thoughts at all? The idea is that when we are focusing on something and really just observing it, if we're putting all our energy into that, we are right here in the present. And a lot of times when people have experiences of feelings of sadness or depression, it can be partially from thinking in the past. It's not all of it for sure, but just part of it. And anxiety can be thinking in the future of all the things that we need to do or all the things that are coming. So mindfulness is going to put us right in the present. What was everyone looking at in the present? And did everyone notice that they were just noticing that and not thinking about the next things, ideally? Was someone going to say something? Yep. A green plant, a painting. Yes, I was looking at a painting too. Plants and paintings, so good. Cat, yes, I have a cat too. Good. Okay. So so this kind of explains it, I guess, a little bit of what I was already saying. So it's mindfulness is or this aspect of mindfulness is part of grounding. So just think for a moment about how connected you felt to that item that you were staring at, or being, item or being. And notice if you were thinking about anything else. or just the thing you were focusing on? And were you thinking about the past or the present? Or just enjoying that moment? So we can together and individually come up with of things that we can access on a regular basis, because whatever room you're in right now, maybe you're in that room a lot, but you're not always in that room. And you're not always inside. So outside, can anyone think of that they want to share any calming item that, like, no matter where you are, you can probably see it when you're outside, and it's a calming thing you can look at and focus on? Trees. Yep, that's my go-to too. You know, always find a tree somewhere. Water, rivers, clear skies. Yes. Although clear skies, I gotta say, we don't have that every day here in Seattle, but you can always look at the skies for sure. Just can't guarantee they'll be clear. We can almost always see water and rivers from a lot of places here. We are so fortunate in that way. You've also noticed the skies. Although I like to look at great rain with gratitude, because that's why it's so green and beautiful and lush here. So not always clear skies, but always green around us. So yeah, you can pretty much always find some item of nature wherever you are outside. And so if you can identify what one thing is for yourself, then that can be your kind of go-to thing to just focus on it when you just notice you want to calm yourself down a little bit. Okay, let's do this with an item that you usually see when your rooms you regularly occupy. So maybe this is like a room at work, or maybe your office if you work from home, or maybe in your classroom if you're in school or a teacher, or wherever you might be when, I guess I'm mentioning those as ideas just because that's probably more likely where people will feel stressed, but maybe it's somewhere else. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share about, like, what their go-to thing is that they could look at in a room that they're usually in? A lot of rooms have plants in them that can be really nice, but not always. So another thing you can do is maybe choose a color that's really calming for you. So green, for example. So maybe you look for plants in whatever room you're in. Or if there isn't a plant, maybe there is a painting of a plant, or maybe there's something else that's green. A silver ring on your finger, and you look at that. Yes, because that's always right there. You can always go to it and look at it. In the morning, my coffee mug, or at work. Yes. I always have a coffee mug with me. It actually has water in it right now because it's just, I felt like it looked nicer than my water bottle, but yeah, I have coffee and water a lot. Out the window. Oh yeah. Yeah, if you have access to a window where you are, that is super helpful. Yeah, so just kind of maybe think of what your thing might be, so you can know that you have it. So when you feel anxious, you can focus on that item and just be mindful of it and notice it and connect it to the present. And also I'd like to suggest that it's not just for when you feel anxious, because the more that you can practice it on a regular basis, just like with resiliency strategies. The more we make habits out of these things, the more it's just going to bring more calmness and peace to our lives. But also we know more quickly where to go to calm ourselves. Okay, so yeah, I kind of thought we'd have more Q&A throughout, so we'll have plenty of time. So this is my last little slide here. So please stay in touch with me. Feel free to grab a screenshot. I will send it into the chat in a second. Slow breathing is good. Yes, so good. Meditation, yoga, all those things that kind of enhance or add to slow breathing too. So I do individual counseling for ages 12 and up, and I work with primarily relationships, career and academics, anxiety. Those are my main things, as well as depression and PTSD. I do not take insurance. So I'm a licensed mental health counselor associate, which means that I'm licensed, but I'm working on my hours towards full licensure. And then at that point, I will be able to take insurance. So for right now, I do not. My website does have my fees and information on there. Also has some information about my individual counseling, a little bit more detail there. And then counseling groups. So I'm just working on getting started my next round of counseling groups. So I have a page on my website where you can just answer a little form if you would be interested in the groups. And I will ideally have, it depends on how many people are interested, but ideally I'll have like a middle school group, a high school group, and adult group. So that way people can have groups for their right appropriate age group. On general anxiety, relationship, academic careers, domestic violence, and art meditation as well. Also want to remind again that I have some books that I wrote on domestic violence that, so it's my story of domestic violence, and it reads like a story, like you're reading a book of like any story, as though it was fiction. But then after every chapter, it'll explain, oh, this is really what happened. So you can learn what the warning signs are as they're happening in the story. So then you can notice it, if you see it in your own life or a person you know in their life. So you just have those preventative tools. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. It is at katemajau.counselor. And my website has all this information, which is www.katemajau.com. That is KATEMAGEAU.com. I think my last slide is just questions or comments. So I'll leave this up for a few minutes in case we want to take screenshots, and I'll put the information in the chat. And let's have a discussion, Q&A. Anyone have any thoughts?
Your early slides on power and control versus equality, that was just mind-boggling. It was so thorough and brought to mind things I wouldn't normally have recalled or thought about on that. So I made screenshots of those two. They were really excellent, and I want to spend more time looking at those.
Yeah, great. So these are, you can Google them and you can find all sorts of versions of these. They're all pretty close to the same versions. Some have like different gendering and things. But yeah, you can Google power and control wheel and the equality wheel. And definitely you can take some more time within that. And if you would be interested in learning more about this, I am hoping to get a group started for domestic violence in which we would talk a lot more about all these different aspects. I'm glad that was helpful information for you.
the term gaslighting is something that I had never heard of until recently. And then to find out there's a movie about gaslighting and where that term came from. And I'm starting to see that in a variety of different contexts. So the term is catching on and people are recognizing that behavior pattern much more today in the past.
100%. Yeah, I had never heard of the term when I was experiencing it. Until my sister told me, actually, she said that is actually gaslighting. And I was like, what is that? So it's so good that it's being talked about now so people can know it and recognize it and make the decision to stay in the relationship or not, which it does take people. It depends where you look at the research, but I've heard 7 times, I've heard 37 times. It takes a long time for people to leave. But the more that we can share this kinds of information with one another and teach about this, the more that people can figure out what's happening and leave sooner. Which the sooner you leave, the safer you are. The longer you stay in, the more dangerous it gets and the harder it gets to leave.